Okay, folks, doing another reaction video. You know how ScrewAttacks seems to have a rather big hate fetish for Sonic the Hedgehog? Well, according to my brother, the Random DCE, he was featured once or twice in this top 10 worst cartoons based on video games. Now, I haven't watched the list just yet, just so you know, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of a reaction video to know what's in going beforehand, but that's besides the point. ScrewAttack have never made it secret they don't like Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't get it. It's like, you know, there are things I don't like in this world, but I don't yammer on about it in almost every video. I mean, I've said in numerous occasions, I can't stand reality TV. I say it the once. If someone asks again in the future, you know, why don't you watch TV full times? Because TV's poor these days, in my opinion, with the following exceptions of Gotham, Sherlock, and Thunderbirds are a go. But that's just me. I'm looking at the clock. It's 14 minutes of this, so as chances are I'm only going to do highlights of this. So, oh boy, let's partake. Okay, Sonic Underground, you might have something with that. Okay. Sonic Underground, oh jeez. Alright. This is where I'm going to say something nice about Underground, considering I know Chibikari actually does like Underground, because I think it, only going from what Random has told me, I think it was one of the, probably the only Sonic series she's familiar with at the moment. That series was like if you tried to fuse Adventures of with Saturday Morning together. The only problem is then, although it's using an art style and imagery that's very similar to Saturday Morning, Bunny, Tails, and Sally are missing, and yet the Robotnik art style from Satam is present. And some to varying degrees, Sonic's art style is there, similar, but he's got additional spines. And Sonic is part of a resistance and rock band, which has musical instruments that become weapons. Now, that premise on its own, it's like, that actually sounds kind of cool. You know, to be able to turn a guitar into a laser rifle, it's like, it's a good idea on paper, but then you throw in the fact that Sonic's a prince. Yeah. So, I wouldn't say Underground was the worst of the worst. I think at best it's guilty pleasure. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's right. Sonic's in a band with his brother and sister. Sonic Underground was the kind of show that didn't know what it wanted to be. It tried to be,
I will give him that.
Tackle some serious issues, but then every single episode had to stop halfway through for Sonic and siblings to sing about friendship.
Okay, you're kind of missing the point. Music was a huge theme and presence within the series, so to not have an episode with a musical number, it kind of defeats the purpose. You do realize you're contradicting yourself, but then again, look who I'm talking to.
Or some other crap.
I actually like this number. I found my home. That'll be the only time I ever sing in this video.
The premise of Sonic having a brother and sister and being in a band with them seems like it's ripped right out of Sonic fanfiction. Oh yeah, and all of them are voiced by Jaleel White.
To give Jaleel credit, Wedding Bell Blues was the only time he had trouble with consistency in keeping the three roles consistently different, as I covered in the 1999 chapter of Fast Memories, which you can go see on this channel as well. I don't think it's, you know, that far-fetched. I mean, you know, when a lot of people consider Sonic and Tails are like brothers in a way, why not Sonic actually have siblings? I don't really see that idea as being far-fetched. It's just you're being far too nitpicky.
Yes, even the girl.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Not every cartoon has to be a one-to-one adaptation of the source material, but taking the coolest kid in school and making him into an awful cliche of chili dogs and slapstick? That.
Oh, I knew he was going to be nitpicky. You are aware that with the original games, the only plot was to get from A to B, destroy the badniks, free the animal captives, and take out Robotnik in each act until you get to the last zone and you take him out again. There's no... That is your plot line. Destroy the badniks, get the Chaos Emeralds, defeat Robotnik. You can't really do much with an animated series in that context. You have to give the character. I mean, when they did the original Transformers, car robots, as I believe they were originally called in Japan, when Marvel had them, they're like, what's the story with this? You know, what can we give to this story? That's where you have Optimus Prime as the noble leader, you have Starscream as the cowardly backstabber, you have Megatron, you know, who just wants to have the bad guys rule Cybertron and possibly the universe, and you have Bumblebee as, you know, as Optimus Prime's student, and in turn Bumblebee sees Optimus Prime as his mentor. So in the context with Sonic, you have to give him these little traits, these little quirks and characteristic mannerisms that sets him apart from everywhere else. Otherwise you have pretty much a blank slate character, and that's not going to do well for an animated series nor any particular franchise. And the fact that Sega include the chili dogs to this day, and here's the thing, if you're going to criticize Sonic for the chili dogs, then you may as well criticize Biker Mice from Mars for having the hot dogs, the Ninja Turtles for having pizza, or I'm trying to think, you know, or I'm trying to think of another one, or any other particular character who has a vice for, whether it be sodas, cheesecake. The point still stands. You're nitpicking over something that doesn't need to nitpick. Man, your site, no wonder your site's going the same way as GameTrailers.com. Go suck a lemon! You are aware this was the early 90s. They had to keep... This was a time when shows, games were a little bit more colourful and a lot less bland. Everything's toned down to this ultra grim, hospital serene realism. And another thing, folks, we're getting a little bit tired of that. I mean, why do you think with things like Blood Dragon and Kung Fury, it's actually put colourful tones back into entertainment? And by that, you know, shows that don't use the grunge or do things that are not red, blue, green, or yellow. Kung Fury was something that a lot of fans were asking for from movies. They didn't want these one-note protagonists that have little to no character. They wanted the cheesy lines of a younger Schwarzenegger. They wanted the witty cheesiness of Sylvester Stallone from back in the day. With the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, it is comedy romp driven. There's a lot of slapstick, but it works. That's the whole point. It's an animated series. You know that this is not real, but you're having fun with it. You know, the whole, like I say, the whole bland, gritty world realism, people have had enough of it. They don't want it anymore. I don't want it. Random DCE doesn't want it. The mighty Tarrison doesn't want it. Loads of people don't want it anymore. So, on that one, you're nitpicking again, and yes.
Citizens and lots of cartoon logic.
It's a cartoon.
A tyrannical monster. Now he's a tragic loser that provides provides comedic relief alongside his robo-cronies, Scratch and Grounder.
You do realise by making Robotnik the character that he is in it, that's part of the joke. And some 23 years later, the Long John Baldry portrayal of Dr. Robotnik is considered iconic and one of the best ones ever. When you consider the YTPs, upon YTPs of it, and everybody quoting Long John Robotnik, even to this day, there's a reason. They like the satirical, cynical, and cheesiness of the character. They want the and you're questioning cartoon logic in a show that's a cartoon. I'm gonna leave you with that.
Remember in the 90s how every show had to have some kind of PSA to teach kids to not...
The PSAs are there for a reason. It keeps all the censorships off their back, so they're actually entertaining and teaching them the right lesson. If you're gonna complain about that, you may as well complain about the He-Man cartoons as well.
Well, the Sonic Says segments at the end of every episode,
which became the hilarity years later, in which Nostalgia Critic used a couple of times when some situations were getting a little too crazy. He goes, you know what? We need to know what Sonic Says. And it just fits in, with the narrative of what he's trying to do.
were so bad, they never even made it into the UK broadcasts. How this show ended up with 40 more episodes than Sonic Sat AM is beyond me. I mean, it can...
Well, it's simple. You don't know good quality, but then again, look what site you work for.
Down has the worst episode of animated television of all time, the Sloth episode.
Looks like your whole family's in shock. No, they're this way all the time.
Okay, clearly he didn't watch the episode properly. The whole point is the sloths are going real slow. Sonic gets zapped with a slow-mo ray and his speed is reduced to nothing. The whole point was to be able to put Tails in a position of leadership and responsibility, and therefore it allows him character growth. But why am I trying to teach you that? See, what I'm trying to say here, this is the knowledge, this is you. I rest my case.
In the infamous words of a man, Jaleel White, this show is no good.
I disagree. I think I'm going to stop there. Alright. Let's talk brass taxes now. Oh, jeez Louise. Where did I stop? I think I stopped at 12 minutes 11. Alright. This was nothing more than nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking, and I'm starting to see why so many people have left ScrewAttack now. Apparently the only thing they've got going for them is Death Battle, which the Death Battles are good, but I prefer 1 minute melees because there's no padding out with the backstories and whatnot. It's just get on with the battle in question, and then it's done. You just have a minute of fun. All I'm going to say is, excuse my choice of words here, but it's just ScrewAttack having another hate boner for Sonic. And guys, we get it. You ever seem to notice this train of thought? If you may humor me on this for a moment, you ever notice whenever someone has a major dislike for Sonic the Hedgehog, whether it's valid or not, you ever notice that site doesn't do too well afterwards? Look at game trailers. They absolutely got crammed by the fans. When you consider they gave games like Unleashed, Colors, and various other games, really decent scores, and then they turn around on Twitter and say, oh, you never had a good game, and they go and say, oh, we're doing this because we care. It's like, dude, people know hypocrites and contradicts when they see them. And it's the same thing with IGN. They go and do that puff piece about saying how this was never a decent franchise to begin with, and how they can't understand there are people on the internet that still have a, that genuinely like Sonic the Hedgehog, and then saying something as asinine as saying, oh, you blast through the Green Hill Zone on Sonic 2. My thought at that was, really? Even casual fans who've only played Sonic once or twice, they know Green Hill Zone Sonic 1. That's basic Hedgehog information 101. They know that. And, IGN have had to do damage control, albeit not very good damage control, but they know that they were called out on their BS, and here you are, and here's ScrewAttack once again doing this. It's like, guys, we get it. You don't like Sonic. There's not really much more I can say regarding this, because they're not going to listen. It's only going to bite them in the posterior when... people get to that stage where they're fed up of their nonsense, and they're just go like, oh, they're doing another video where they're hating on Sonic. Just be like, they'll go elsewhere. So, yeah. I got nothing else to say. I think ScrewAttacks are being pathetic on this one. It's just like, I know I'm repeating myself. It's like, we get it. You don't like Sonic. Do us all a favor. Move on.